apparent in the projects that you're going to show tonight. You set out to learn so many new things over the past 10 days. It's been really exciting seeing you get to grips with them, to hit all of the challenges you've hit with them, but to always find a way forward, and such interesting projects as well. So of the projects you'll see here this evening, the ideas, the research, the execution has been entirely crafted from scratch by each team. They've picked up brand new stacks and frameworks in order to bring their idea into reality. In order to do this, they've needed to utilize pretty much every developer process they've picked up over the past 16 weeks in order to break these problems down and to find a way forward. Really happy for all of you. You have a lot to be very proud of. So I hope you feel that pride this evening as well. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce the first team to present this evening, and that team is Sonder. So the category of project this team chose to work on is tech for good. So working on tech that will make positive change in the world. I think you'll agree when you hear about their idea that they've absolutely worked on something very important. So over to you, Sonder, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Welcome to Sonder. Hello, I am Jarosław, and I'm in Poland, only a few hours drive from the border with Ukraine. The current situation in Ukraine, along with other refugee situations worldwide, is the driving force for the creation of Sonder, an online haven for refugee mothers, which puts the power of choice into the hands of the mother in need, independent from the donor. It is the refugee mother whom decides on what are her and her child's necessities, giving the donor the opportunity to fill these needs. Sonder is a multilingual platform, which also includes image icons throughout the website to enable the use of the website worldwide. As the name implies, Sonder is a realization that we are all human, and it is in our struggles where it is most vital that we all come together to reach unified goodness and love through the understanding of Sonder. Now, I would like to introduce to you, Chloe, who will do a demonstration of the website. Thank you.
We have our homepage. At the bottom, we have two call to actions, one for a refugee mother and one for a donor. I'm going to sign up as a refugee mother with my details. I'm going to enter my email address here and my password. And I'm going to click sign up. As we can see, this account already exists, so a box has popped up on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go to log in instead, then log in with these details. Here we go here, and we are brought to the mother's request page. Here we have various different items that can be added to the basket. We have baby formula and girls' clothes. I can remove these as well, say if I want to change my mind, and I can add fruit instead. We can see that we've got a list of requests here that are outstanding by various different users. I'm going to close off my request with a message, and I'm just going to pop a smiley face in there and click request. And we can see that the request has come to the top of the list here. What I'm going to do is go to our About Us page, and here we have some information about Sonder, what inspired us, and we have a section here that is to do with what needs we're fulfilling and what you can do with the website. We have a get in touch contact box here, which you can fill out, and this will send a message to the Sonder HQ, which shows at the bottom at the top here. I'm going to go to my profile. This is the profile for a mother, and we can see here that we've got some details and we have the option to update them. So I can put here and I can say, I love swimming. And I'm going to input these directly, as in order to fill out this form, you need all options filled out. So I'm going to click update bio, and we can see that the about yourself has changed to I love swimming. On the right hand side, we've got all the requests that have been placed by this account. And we've got a nice button here that we can click to go to manage requests. Here we can see that we have a list of outstanding requests, which are our active requests. I'm going to log out now and log in as a donor to show you the other side of this interface here. So this will take us to the other side of the request page, which is for donors. And this is anybody who wants to be able to donate any products that would be being requested by the mother. So we can see here at the top of the list that we've got the request that I just put through, and we've got various other ones here. I'm going to click I can fulfill this request, and we've got a nice thank you message that's popped up. On this page, you can also filter. So if you want to filter by your city, you can select here, and also you can show active requests. So these are any requests that have not been fulfilled yet. I'm going to go ahead and log back out and log in as the mother. And I'm going to put my details in here. Again, log in. And this time, if I go to the profile and I go to Okay, and now I'm going to hand over to Dash, who's going to talk about working practices and planning.
Thanks, Chloe. Yeah, sorry about that. That was so good that you have to see it twice. So I appreciate there are some non-tech people in the audience, so anything technical, I'll do my best to use layman's terms. So after coming up with our idea and planning for 2 days, we set about wanting to achieve an extremely simple minimum viable product, which is basically the bare minimum you have to do before you can say your app actually works. In our case, our MVP was being able to send a request to another page, which we completed within our 3-day target, including the 2 days of planning. And that was a nice, easy win for us to boost our confidence so early on. Following that, we had daily stand-ups each day where we discussed what we planned to do that day and who we'd be working with, and to discuss any foreseeable challenges that might crop up. We used the Miro board heavily, which is that scary looking picture in the top left, in order to plan how to make big challenges into lots of small challenges, so we could continue to have lots of those little victories, meaning we could have a little party at the end of each day in our daily retros. I'll now pass over to Eddie, who's going to talk about the tech stack that we used.
Thanks, birthday boy. So our website was built on a MERN stack. We incorporated our databases online with MongoDB Atlas, and we deployed daily to Heroku as well. We integrated some lovely features. A couple of dependencies that we'd like to talk about were email.js that sends automated emails to the users when their requests are being processed, as well as I18 Next to translate our pages dynamically on the screen. We tested our project extensively with Jest for the models and the Supertest for the route handlers and Cypress for our end-to-end. And I'd like to pass you on to Chris, who will talk about what went well.
Hello. It's fair to say that after 2 engineering challenges that we took before this, we all brought our experience of past projects to this one and agreed how we would work accordingly. We were exceptionally well organized and structured, utilizing an agreed upon daily schedule and organizational tools like Google Calendar and Easy Retro to organize our project. Communication was on point and of high priority. Everything was discussed, everyone was included, everyone was heard. We allowed team to work in ways they felt comfortable and productive. Solo sessions, pair programming, and group debugging sessions were all on offer to all who wanted to be included. We intentionally nurtured a supportive environment which meant everyone could give what they could and take the lead on what they felt confident on, as well as taking on the team leader, scrum master role on a rotating daily basis. And I'm going to pass on to Francesco, who's going to tell us about some of the challenges we had.
Thank you, Chris. Well, the biggest challenge was definitely working with new technology. React was new to most of us, but thanks to the foundations that we built throughout the bootcamp, we were able to pick up things fairly easily and quickly. Another challenge was maintaining a strict test-driven development approach to writing code, because the project was so complex and full of different moving parts. We compensated by writing many end-to-end tests and by regularly performing manual tests. Finding a balance between what we wanted to build and the deadline was also a challenge. What we've built is the result of careful planning and a lot of hard work. Everyone in the team gave absolutely everything, and it was a real joy being part of it.
Okay, thank you. We've been Team Sonder. That is Eddie, myself, Chloe, Chris, Francesco, Jarek, and Dash. Thank you. The website is deployed on Heroku at the link shown there if you'd like to go and check it out. Bye.
Amazing, amazing work. Thank you so much. And yeah, please leave up that slide for just a moment in case anybody wants to check out the deployed app. Just an incredible project, so really well done. And nice work on overcoming your technical difficulties in this presentation as well. It's just one of the things that happens in live demos, so I'm glad that we get to see it twice. Okay, amazing. Up next, we have our first of 2 food-related projects. So I'm going to introduce Eat the Week. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, welcome to our Eat the Week presentation. So team of 5, so it was Claire, Jane, Shirley, Brom, and myself. So let's get into it. So first things first, we thought of doing a food app, and we thought to ourselves, what sort of things we want to do. So to start with, we thought we'd make up some personas. So let me just briefly talk you through these personas, and then we can get on to what the website is in a second. So introducing Rebecca up there first. She's a juggling working mum of 2, lives with her children, her husband and a dog. What she wants in life is organisation, a tidy house, and time with her kids, especially at meal times. She relies on recipes she knows, and for her, time is very precious, and planning meals takes time. And then on the right-hand side, introducing Nina. She's a family foodie, strong Indian heritage with a big family, 7 children, lots and lots of grandchildren. The kids are always there wanting her recipes. She gets frustrated with them always asking for the same recipes over and over again. She wants to make sure that her recipes are passed down. She's very proud of them. And she's not particularly tech savvy, so she needs a nice, easy website that she can use to upload and pass them down. So very briefly, what is the website? It's what it says on there. It's a food website. It allows you to upload recipes, create a weekly planner, and order the products on the plan. So let me quickly load a demo. So you can see there our log on screen. Once you come in, we've got some preloaded recipes, and you can see the planner up the top. You can then create a recipe, so steak and chips, lovely jubbly. You just go through, add everything that you need. We do allow images to be uploaded, as you can see on the right-hand side. Get the chips in. Create the recipe. Okay, for those eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll spot that I missed off the steak. So you go back into edit, add your steaks. And there we are. And then we haven't got anything for Sunday, so let's add that to our Sunday plan. You can see it populates up the top there. You can also view the other recipes. This is a preloaded one with lots of data, so ingredients and method, and you can then print that off. Okay, so we've got this week's food order all done. So let's place an order. Click on the top there. Takes you to our order confirmation screen. So it's being delivered on Saturday, lots of stuff. And then you can also go back and delete if you need to. Now, let's say, think about someone like Rebecca from the screen a couple of screens ago. Perhaps she needs some inspiration about what to cook for her children. So we've got an API link here where you can go in and search for other recipes. So particularly blueberries this time. You can add them to your favorites. If you click on the picture, it will take you to a third-party website. And then I'll briefly meet the team on the website. Notice my dog on the right. I'm surprised he hasn't barked during this. He has done all week. And yeah, and that's our logo as well. So the tech, kind of similar to the last guys. Don't want to talk for too long, but we've got automated deployments. That's via Heroku. So any changes we make go instantly live. We have also purchased the domain name that you can see on there. And as mentioned, so cloud hosted, so Heroku is cloud hosted along with Mongo, so that's Mongo Atlas. You can see some of those in the pictures up the top there. By using React, it means that our website can look good both on mobile and web. It has been designed for web, but if you're loading it on the mobile, it should still look pretty decent. And we've used good design and security principles, so that's what we're talking about with RESTful, and it's fully encrypted. Our unit and feature testing suite is done using Cypress and Jest. And then moving on to the right, it's more sort of slightly process bits. So lots of models done up front, so domain models, class models. You can see an example of that bottom left. And we used agile processes. So we had daily stand-ups, we did 2-day sprints, retros at the end. You can see our Kanban board on there in Jira. And one thing we liked doing was demoing anything new and cool. So we did sort of show and tells. And we did lots of pairing, some single programming, but also lots of working together. So we're nearly there. Food heaven, food hell, for those of you who watch Saturday morning TV. Slightly differently, I'm going to start on the right-hand side with the hell, then we can finish on a nice note. So testing, not a massive issue, but it took a little bit of time for us to set up our tests and get them integrated with the code. So that meant we probably started some of the dev work without being test-driven. I guess that's something we'll probably learn for the future, is perhaps invest a bit more time up front getting that working before we start just chucking code in. React, so it's on both sides. You'll notice it's got a very unique style. It's quite difficult to just pick up and run with and to implement a website. And then time, so I think everyone probably on the course agree with this. We've all worked very long hours, put a lot into it. It's probably put a lot of pressure on us and our families. So whilst those things have been a bit hard, let's now talk about the nice things. So we've got quite a bespoke setup. So you'll have seen the logo up there. That's designed by us. We haven't stolen that from anyone. Though we've used a bit of Bootstrap to style the website, a lot of it is our own CSS styling. We've created our own hooks. And as mentioned, React has a quite unique style. So in that sense, it becomes quite bespoke. And we have a social media campaign. Then onto React. So kind of the opposite of what we said for Hell. So in as much as it was a difficult thing to learn and to implement and to use, I think one of our proud achievements is that we've then taken something that's quite difficult, learned it in a couple of weeks, and we produced a website that we're very proud of. And lastly, a lovely thing to end on. So the team, it's a great team. I thoroughly enjoyed working with them all. We've all gone above and beyond. I guess as with any group where you work as closely and intensely as we've had our moments, but the good news is we just had one broken elbow and a detached retina at the end of it, but we're still friends. But in all seriousness, I think the guys will agree. I hope they will. I will leave with particularly in this group 4 friends for life, although to be honest, the same could be said for the majority of the cohort. So that's one massive thing to take away from it. And finally, thank you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for coming. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Our website's there. I noticed our Heroku one isn't, so perhaps we'll chuck that up to people so they can go and visit that as well. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eat the Week. I love that you weren't joking about having a full social media campaign. So power to you. And really well done. I know you've worked tirelessly over the past 2 weeks. I know this application is something that many people will no doubt appreciate. So well done. Next, we're taking a slight segue to a game team, and Team Juno, over to you whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone and welcome to Juno. My name is Megan and I'm just going to introduce you to the rest of the team and tell you a little bit about Juno. At the end of these presentations, you can play our game at www.junogame.com. So our team is made up of Peter, myself, Megan, Sarah and Haroon. So our goals at the start of this project were to create a fun, simple, light-hearted and interactive classic game. We wanted to consolidate our skills that we learned at Makers on an unfamiliar project style. So this was our first game development, which is a bit of a departure from the syllabus at Makers. We also wanted to challenge ourselves to learn a new skill. So we decided to create a game, a front-end game using React. We also just wanted to focus on fun to end our time at Makers. So Juno is JavaScript Uno. It's a virtual take on a universal card game. We chose Uno because it's easy to learn and you can play it over and over again. We wanted to make it interactive so that you don't need a physical deck to play, you just visit our website. And we used an algorithm to eliminate the need for a second player, you just play the Juno bot. So now I'm just going to pass you over to Peter, who's going to give you a demo of our game.
Yeah, thanks so much, Meg. So this is a pre-recorded demo of our project. So when you go to the website, this is the homepage. You get a short description of how to play the game and you click on play to get into the actual game itself. So with Juno, you have your hand of cards along the bottom and the computer has their cards along the top. And the goal is to get rid of your cards in your hand before the computer can. And the way you do that is you match either a color or a number with the card in the middle. So right now there's a green 0. So we can click on our green 1, which will put that into the middle of the screen. And immediately the computer has played their card, a green 5. And you can see that because on the right-hand side, we've got all the moves that the computer's making. So we've no greens and no 5s. So we'll click on draw a card. The computer's played a yellow 5. We'll go for the yellow 1. The computer's played a yellow 1 as well. And we can go for a red 1, a blue 1, and so on. So we fast forwarded here to a time when we lost. The computer got rid of all their cards and we lost. But we can click play again to go again. And then we'll fast forward to whenever we've won a game. So we get rid of all of our cards. And thankfully, we've won this time. So yeah, that's just a really short demo. And I'd like to pass on to Sarah to talk about some of the technology we used to make this and how we organized ourselves.
Cool, thank you, Peter. Hey, everyone. As Peter says, I'm just going to quickly run you through the tech and the different tools that we use to create Juno. So we used something called a Trello board throughout the project just to keep track of our tickets and who was working on them. And we also used the board as a place to flag any bugs that needed fixing. Trello is essentially just a virtual to-do list with interactive post-it notes that you can store under different headings and move around. We also use something called Excalidraw to literally draw out what our game would look like. And then we use Slack to communicate and keep in touch with each other. In terms of the tech that we used, we all decided really early on that we wanted to use this project as an opportunity to learn React. So we built a purely front-end app to allow us to do that, which basically just means it's a game that you can play in your web browser and you don't have to download anything. We wrote our code in JavaScript and HTML, and then we used CSS and a website called Bulma to style the game and make it really look like Uno. To finish off, we used the React testing library just to test our game and make sure that everything was working properly. Just on to practices and planning and how we work together as a team. So we spent the first few days of the project developing the concept for the game and just really taking some time to think about what kind of game we wanted to build. We also spent a lot of time researching the tech stack we wanted to use. As I mentioned, we decided we wanted to use React, so we needed to do quite a bit of research into how to actually use it. Once we decided on that, we went back to our Trello board to create some user stories, and then we turned those stories into our MVP, and that's how we built it. In terms of our team practices, we had a stand up every morning where we started by reviewing each other's code from the previous day on GitHub and then merging this into our main project. And from there, we used our Trello board again to assign tickets for the day so that everyone knew what they were working on. We spent our days either pair programming or working together as a group to work through our tickets. And we had a check-in in the afternoon and at the end of the day just to see how everyone was getting on. I think having those regular check-ins and just keeping our work organized really helped to make sure that we were moving forward at a pace that everyone was comfortable with. And because of that, we just created a really fun and collaborative environment that really helped strengthen us as a team. And it was just, we had a really great time working together. So I'll just pass you over to Harun now, who's going to talk about our successes and what we learned.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So I'm just going to briefly talk about some of the learnings and some of the successes we had over this project. I think one of the things that absolutely all the developers can kind of attest to is bugs. Whenever there's any kind of engineering project, there are lots of bugs, and we just became more confident on how to kind of overcome some of these bugs. So trying to use Google, Stack Overflow and official documentation, but also coding as a group of 4 was quite useful. So basically lots of people just had more ideas to kind of throw at each of the issues. And also time boxing. Every time we had a bug, just kind of time boxing it and saying how long we're going to spend trying to work on it until we kind of reach out for help. Another thing to point out is a flat planning phase takes quite a lot of time because initially we weren't too sure the exact game we were going to produce. So yeah, on to the next slide. Yeah. So some of the successes. So again, kind of, I think most of these groups on this kind of cohort spent some time trying to do something or another in React. Basically, I feel there was quite a success being able to pick up a new kind of tech stack and basically learn the tech stack and actually implement something within it. We actually managed to complete the project on time and even a tiny bit early, I dare say, even though we had a small team, so that was pretty cool. Also, some of the things we loved, basically it was a new type of project. So the typical projects that we did on Makers before were kind of revolving around some kind of database and a database kind of solution at the back of it. But this was like a purely front end kind of game project, which was pretty cool. So we created something really fun. So one of the points I'd like to talk about is when we actually got the computer to work. That felt like a real kind of eureka moment. Also, another thing is when you notice you're actually playing the game, that background came as like a real surprise to us. We randomly clicked on it and it seemed to work because we were spending ages beforehand trying to work out what background to put down. So on to the next slide, please. Yep. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. And you guys can actually play the game at www.junogame.com, so feel free to have a go. Cheers. If you guys have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you so much. The game's looking amazing. I don't know if you'll be able to use this game to unwind after working so hard on it for 2 weeks, but I hope one day when some time passes, you'll be able to come back to it and use it for downtime because it looks gorgeous. So yeah, really well done. Amazing to see. Next up, we're back to food with the beautifully named Pantry Pal, probably the friendliest sounding app I've ever heard of, focusing on a feature I think we probably all wished for multiple times a week. So Pantry Pal, whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, we are Pantry Pal. Our team consists of Jack, Ed, Tim, Trashna and myself, Camilla. So figuring out what to have for dinner after a full day of work and decision making can be a frustrating process. You can't remember what's in your cupboard and what's about to go off in your fridge, and the idea of a takeaway is looking more and more promising. That is where Pantry Pal steps in to do the very hard work for you. Pantry Pal takes the pain out of dinner planning by helping you save time and money. It is an app that generates recipes based on the contents of your pantry. It also introduces you to new recipes and reduces food waste by using up what you already have. Here's Tim with a demo.
Thanks, Camilla. So we're going to do a little run through of Pantry Pal now. So once you log in on the main screen, you can see your digital pantry where you can add all your ingredients that you currently have lying around in your fridge or your kitchen. You can also remove ingredients once you've added them into the list if you decide you've used them or you no longer want to cook with them. Once you've added your ingredients, you can select the ones you want to find a recipe with, search for recipe and return a list of possible recipes where you can see how many ingredients you have, what the recipe is, and also add it to your favorites list. We also have filters available, so you can choose something like bread and lettuce, which will return a list of sandwiches or salads, and we can add the vegetarian for this example and remove anything that has meat in it. We also have gluten-free, nut-free, and simple recipes, which is less than 6 ingredients total. We also have a favorites tab where you can come back and access your favorites, so easy access to the recipes, so you can get to the website with the actual instructions and cook anything with ease. I'm going to hand over to Ed.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about our learning journey. So to start our learning journey, we wrote up a team charter laying out what we expect from ourselves and each other and the project as a whole. This helped us sort of stay on track and have a valuable and enjoyable experience throughout the engineering project. Once we had an understanding of how we would work, we began planning by mind mapping multiple ideas, as you see on the screen, and potential features that we would like, allowing us to narrow down our ideas into a minimum viable product. Our minimum viable product ended up being that we would just like to be able to add items into our pantry and list the contents of our pantry were. And when we had this decision in place, we had a solid foundation. We could make mock-ups and diagrams of how our app would work, and then could gradually bring in more and more features over time. We all wanted to learn something new in this project and heard how popular React is, like many of the other teams, and it is in front-end development, and so wanted to challenge ourselves to learn something new in this project. This led us to, in our first weekend on the project, doing our own research into the framework. This worked nicely to build on our knowledge of full stack development with things like MongoDB, Express, and Node.js, to build on the skills that we had learned earlier in the course and take us forward in our learning. And now Jack will talk about what went well.
Thanks, Ed. So what went well? It seems across cohorts there's this common notion that it's far too easy to just jump straight into a project without sufficient planning beforehand. So we set out to ensure that we had a clear idea of what we wanted to achieve and how we would do so. We set up a good foundation, like Ed mentioned, with our minimum viable product to be as basic as we possibly could. That ensured us that we had a good base to sort of build from very early on within the first few days of the project. We swapped our pairs daily so that everybody had input on every section of the project, from the nitty-gritty back-end logic to the nice flowing and good-looking front-end design. We ensured we had well-structured day plans, keeping our morning stand-ups and evening retros brief and to the point, with the one exception of our end of week 1 retro, which you can see there, just sort of descended into spamming the board with food emojis, which leads nicely onto the last point that ultimately, and probably most importantly, we had fun doing so. I'll now pass over to Trishna, who will talk through what we might have done differently.
Thanks, Jack. So what we would have done differently, there's quite a few things that we pulled out that we would have liked to improve on. So the first thing is the tools that we use for project managing. We'd be a bit more flexible with that. We had a strong team communication established at the beginning, and we probably didn't need all the tools that we sort of put in place in the first place, so probably could have reduced that down a little bit. We would also aim for wider test coverage, because our features sort of tested well, but we didn't manage to cover like edge cases. We'd also avoid underestimating how much time we set aside for implementing certain features, because to be realistic, more than likely it did go over than what we thought originally. Another thing that we could have improved on is that we made our app live on Heroku a bit later than we would have anticipated, and doing so made us sacrifice like almost the whole of Tuesday just to try and get it up and running and working. And we also had some funny challenges whereby we tried to search our API for like vegetarian dishes, and it comes back with like lamb dishes, which isn't really ideal for a vegetarian. So yeah, things like that, and also giving us unappetizing results as well, like cheese gloop. But yeah, so we'd probably spend more time investigating better APIs, which are also affordable but do the job well. So the project is live. We can post a link in the chat so you guys can access it. Yeah, have a play around and hope you like it. Thanks.
Amazing. Well done, and thank you so much. Amazing to see that it's been deployed as well. We can check it out. So thanks for sharing the link. Okay, amazing. Thanks a million. So we're going to move back to the project category of games. Ironically, for an Easter bank holiday weekend, it's named Get Me Out of Here. It's the team name. It's not a vibe that I'm sending, but this will be our final presentation of the evening. So last but not least, over to you. Get me out of here.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Get Me Out of Here. The team consists of Ali, Ben, myself, Charlotte, Marie, and Rakshak. As stated, our game is an escape room where you have various clickable objects. Some are there to throw you off the scent, some will have clues and puzzles. The aim of the game is to follow the puzzles and eventually unlock the next clue, which will eventually lead you to a hidden key. You have to play the game against the timer, and when the timer runs out, you will have to start the game again. I'm going to leave you over to Marie.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'll talk you through our learning journey. So like most of the other teams, we started with a kind of idea session to come up with an idea for our game, and we settled on a puzzle kind of escape room type game. Following this, we kind of looked into what would be the best way to get the gameplay that we wanted for that, like what kind of clues, themes, puzzles were we capable of achieving, and how could we do that. So we also ended up testing out React as a framework with JavaScript to kind of get that fast, interactive, and very dynamic front end gameplay, and then not have to worry about the back end or kind of any complex logic happening off screen. The next step we took to test that was to create our MVP, which is the simple, very, very simple room and a key on the top right-hand corner. And then once we had that, it became much easier to kind of plan and add step-by-step more complexity to the final game. And I'll hand you over to Rakshak to discuss our challenges.
I think you might be on mute, Rakshak.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, challenges. We opted for React as it's a popular web framework and allows use of interactive elements. However, as it was a new language for all of us, it was quite challenging, particularly in the first week. We did anticipate it that it would take time to learn React, but it was a lot more than we expected. We found it particularly hard to implement few features like the timer function. We overcome these challenges by attending workshop. John's workshop on React was particularly helpful. We also did a lot of YouTube research, reached out to coaches, and a lot of trial and errors. From the second week onwards, it got much easier as we started breaking down complex into really small, simple tickets. Yeah. Hand it over to Alina.
Yeah, hello. So what went well? We decided to go for smaller chunks of meetings on a daily basis, just to make sure we avoid like burnout and getting overly tired throughout the week. So normally on a day-to-day basis, it'll be 2 meetings and sometimes a third if there's something we have to really tackle on the day. And then our program was always quite flexible. We had pair programming, but sometimes if you did have the option of going for programming yourself, if you want to tackle something particular, you can always go and do that. And definitely regular breaks, because sometimes you'll just be stuck on a problem for like a good hour or two, and then you just take a break for 10, 15 minutes, come back and you instantly solve it, which is quite good. And even though React was quite difficult, we did find that it made everyone's approach or our code was quite uniform. So it was very easy to go into someone else's work and then you can edit yourself and tackle it and instantly understand what's actually going on here. So it just made it a lot more fluid. And then I'll pass it over to Ben to show the walkthrough.
Thanks, Ali. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and take you through a quick walkthrough now. Okay, so welcome to our game. This is called Get Me Out of Here. And you can see we've got a nice greeting page here with an interactive title button. And we've also got a blurb beneath that, which sets the scene. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the game to begin. So straight away, you can see we're in our escape room. There's lots of elements of the room. And if we hover over those elements, some of them change the cursor. And that's just to show you that this is an interactive element. So you can also see we're on the clock here, just to keep everyone on their toes. I'm going to start clicking on things. There's a door here. That gives us a pop-up to say the door is locked. Let's click off of that. And we've got some little puzzles here. Okay, interesting. Also got a stack of books here. And this is a book containing clues. Great, so we're starting to explore the room. You can also see we've got a computer here which requires a password and a safe which needs a pin. You can also see that our timer has changed to red. That's to show us that we need to hurry up. Time, I can solve that clue because I know that's saying quite well. Think, no, that's not right. Jump. Oh dear, my time is up. Okay, let's try again. So we're back in the room, 60 seconds on the clock. Now this time, these ones, so I can put those in. Look before you leap, of course it is. And we start to gather some clues. Right, I think this could be a password, so I'm going to try one in here. Nope, that was wrong. Let's try again. Excellent, we're in. And I have seen this phrase before, so let's put that in. Excellent, we get the safe pin. That will allow us to open up the safe. There it is, we can grab this key and open the door. Congratulations, you win. Thank you very much for listening. That is our presentation.
Thank you so much, team. Get me out of here. So if anybody wants to spend their long weekend solving some mysteries, you know where to find them. Amazing idea, amazing project, really well done. I can definitely co-sign all of the messages in the panelist chat right now and saying that this has been some exceptional work. So really well done to all of these teams. Really happy for you and all you've achieved such a short amount of time. If you look at the challenges you've overcome over the last 4 months, but particularly from conceiving these ideas just 2 weeks ago, to having to decide what tech stack to use, and then to learn to use that tech stack, to start testing in that tech stack. I think you can often lose sight of just how much that you've overcome. So I hope that you kind of think back to maybe when you started just a few months ago, even at the start of this project, thinking about what was ahead of you, know that you've actually achieved that. You achieved what you set out to do. So just well done. I'm super impressed. I was particularly impressed by the thought you each put into defining your MVP, sticking to that, and also that they're all deployed for people to try out. So that's quite exciting. So it's been lovely working with you, January cohort of 2022. I'm excited to see where you go next. You've luckily landed with your demo day right before this extra long weekend. So take the time to rest, relax before you make a start on the next chapter with our careers team on Tuesday. And yeah, that's it. So go celebrate, enjoy, relax, and really well done. Now for those that are interested in hanging around, I'm going to hand over to Nikki to host our Q&A. So if you're interested in attending Makers and would like to learn more about the course, drop some questions in the Q&A section. And yeah, thank you again for joining, and thank you to all of our devs. You knocked it out of the park, so well done.
Thanks, Owen. I'm just going to second what Owen said, and I just think I'm just really impressed by all your projects, and the fact that you guys do that in 2 weeks is unbelievable. So yeah, like you said, grab a drink, take it up, log off and chill because you deserve it. But yeah, so anyone who has any questions, just pop it in the Q&A. So we'll do this for the next 30 minutes or so, and yeah, me and Owen will see if we can answer as best as we can for you. There's nothing in the Q&A at the moment, so I'm just going to go through some of the next dates for the next cohorts that we have available. So we have the next one, the online delivery, starts the 19th of April, and then after that, the next hybrid one will be the 16th of May. And these are all pre-course dates, so these are the pre-course starts. And then the next hybrid / online one, I don't know if they've decided quite if we're doing that online or hybrid yet, is the 13th of June. So yeah, and they're all on the website as well. Yeah. Is there any questions yet?
Also, for anybody in the audience who's a bit interested in Makers, if you have any questions about like tech stuff, the content of the bootcamp, anything like that, please do ask. Certain technicalities of applications, go for it. There's a few questions coming in there anyway. So
we've got a couple of questions through. So Jamie is asking, do you know of any good apps to practice coding if you haven't got your laptop around and you work away from home? Owen, do you know any good apps?
Actually, that's interesting. So I feel like you might be talking about like phone or iPad maybe. I actually don't know specifically, but I think a lot of websites that we already recommend might have like mobile offerings. So I'll send them in the chat so you have them. But I mean, typically to people that are trying to practice coding and moving towards applying for Makers, we recommend that you do some work on Code Academy. I think it's quite possible that they have a mobile application or also mobile-friendly web app. That, and I also really like Exercism, exercism.io. It's a really nice website where you can get like some mentor feedback and things like that on challenges. So they may have a mobile offering. Oh, somebody in the chat, Charlotte, mentioned Code Wars has a mobile offering, but it's not ideal, but it is possible. So Code Wars will also be one to check out. So I'll drop those on in the chat, and Nikki, if you have any others, feel free to add them.
Yeah, I was going to say Code Wars, but I didn't know if they had that as an app or if it was just for desktop. But yeah, the Code Wars is one that we recommend you do anyway. So that's probably a good one to do if they have an app for that. So someone says, I'd like to start the bootcamp in July. When do I need to apply for it? I'd say apply as soon as possible. Usually there's like we recommend people apply 2 weeks before minimum for a cohort. So I would say get your application in now, and you can apply as many times as you want, you know, and we always give you feedback if say you didn't get into a certain cohort that you want, or you didn't get through that time. So it's best I would just literally start applying straight away. And what you'll do is you'll have a conversation with someone from our core sales team. And then there's quite a lot of pre stuff you have to do before the application. So they'll prep you for that. So yeah, straight away I would say, Naomi, when would the next course after those dates start? I know you don't have a course in July, but what about August? So let me, I don't know when the next course date is in August. I'll have to get back to you on that, but what I could do is put this email just in the chat. Contact@makers.tech. And if you email them, we can find out straight away. And also if you sign up to our newsletter and just constantly check the website, we're updating it like on a daily basis. The website will always have the up-to-date dates. Okay, Emily, how long does the pre-course take? That is a month, isn't it, Owen? That's for the pre-course.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the pre-course is 4 weeks part-time. So this is 4 weeks where you're expected to do around, I think it's like 20, 25 hours a week. There'll be a set of objectives for you to work towards each week. But some people are typically wrapping up their kind of current roles and things like that. So the time that you do that in can vary quite a bit. Some will have more commitment in some weeks than others, and then that's okay. We keep tabs on your progress to make sure you're moving towards that end kind of deadline of the full-time course so that you are ready to start the full-time course on time. So 4 weeks part-time is the pre-course.
Part-time. Emily's asked, I saw you teach Ruby. Has this ended up being used in these final projects? I'm pretty sure it did get used, but you can confirm this, Owen.
Yeah, so we do coach Ruby, and this is like the main language that you make a start with. So you heavily focus on building up your Ruby confidence in the first 4 weeks of pre-course. And then for the first 5 weeks of the full-time course, we then move on to the kind of topic of learning a new language. So how do you take what you know in one programming language and apply it to another? We do that through the lens of JavaScript. So actually, by the time it comes to these engineering projects, which take up the last 2 weeks of the full-time course, devs quite often tend to pick up entirely new stacks. Sometimes there's like Ruby on Rails projects, sometimes there's like Mern React projects, sometimes they use both. So for any students that are left in the chat, feel free to drop a message about your chosen tech stack.
Thank you. James asking, I'm aiming for the June course too, but I'm struggling with funding. How does the apprenticeship scheme work, and how long does it generally take to get on a course through that avenue? So for your first question with funding, we do have a finance option available, and when you go for a call with one of our core sales, they'll go through that with you. So we can do a payment plan, which I'll try get the link to that and put it in the chat after I finished. But yeah, we do have options available. So yeah, that's something definitely to talk when you have your final conversation, your first conversation with core sales. And also, so with the apprenticeships, so what normally happens is you'll register your interest, and you can apply to be part of the apprenticeship pool, and that's a section on our website. And then when an opportunity comes up, we'll contact you. But we don't always have like open applications for apprenticeships because companies, they'll come to us. So once they're available, we'll contact you. But also make sure you follow us on our social media channels, because I mean, we're constantly posting about apprenticeship opportunities. We have a few coming out this weekend actually, which start in, I know that one starts in July. So when you start an apprenticeship, you'll do the boot camp for 3 months, and then you'll go on placement to work for the company, whether that's in London or remotely. And that's normally how that works. But I would definitely keep an eye out on our social media, because I know there's a few last week that got put out, and this weekend there will be as well. Let's see. How long after the interview does it normally take to receive a response? After the interview, I mean, there's normally you'll get a response within a couple of weeks, I would say. It just depends. So like you have to do, after you've done an interview, you do code debate, which is a challenge, and if you pass, you get 2 chances to do that, to pass that. So if you don't pass the first time, you get 2 weeks, and then you do it again, and if you pass, you go straight through, and you could probably be on the cohort, you know, the week after, or whatever cohort you've decided to go on to. But normally the response is very fast, I would say within a couple of weeks. Is there an age limit or any other requirements on the apprenticeships? There's no age limit, or any no, there's no age limit or any other requirements. I think that basically I know that you have to have GCSE English and math, and if you don't have that, I think you have to do that as you're doing the boot camp, or you have to have it finished by the time you complete the boot camp. However, there's no age limit at all. Most of our makers are, change makers, career changers. So, a lot of them are, between like 30, 50, above as well. So there's no age limit at all. Naomi, how easy would it be to find a job after doing makers? Will there be any support from makers? Yes, absolutely. After you finish the course is almost as important as the course, I would say, because we place such a focus on getting the makers jobs. We have a whole team, a couple of teams actually, that are dedicated to finding employers, helping you with your interview skills, CV skills. We have lots of opportunities. So we have lots of careers fairs where we bring in our employers. I think our last careers fair actually hired about 35 makers, which is amazing, because there was only five employers there. So yeah, we have lots of opportunities. We also do lunchtime talks. So if a company's hiring lots of makers, once they'll come in, have a talk with the students, and then you can ask them lots of questions and find out about the company. Yeah, so lots of opportunities to find jobs afterwards. How many people tend to be in each cohort? 24, is it not on?
Around that. Sometimes it can be a little more, sometimes a little under, but say on average between 20 and 25.
Round about 25. Cool. What's the average time to find a job after finishing the bootcamp? We normally say 3 to 6 months would be average. So that's a good point, actually. When you're planning to do the course, sort of take that job hunting into consideration. I mean, it could be so quickly after, it could be a month after, but I would just say keep in mind that it's on average 3 to 6 months. Are most of the jobs in London or remote? Emmy's asking. Most of the jobs are in London. Most of our hiring partners are London based. However, because of the pandemic, lots of companies are now working remotely. So actually, that pool is getting wider, where there's more companies hiring from different parts of the UK. So it's not, if you're not in London, I wouldn't not do it, because I think that pool is only going to get bigger as time goes on. So they're most in London, but they will expand, and they are expanding. Is the in-person course 5 days a week in your campus? Owen, I think this is a question for you.
Yeah, thank you. And apologies in advance for the siren that's about to pass. But our office is currently open 4 days a week. Give me this is a great advertisement for you wanting to come to the office. It's right next to this gorgeous street. Yeah, so our office is open 4 days a week. How much time you spend in the office, it will depend on a couple of things. So we, to date, since I guess a while into the pandemic, we started running some hybrid cohorts, some fully remote cohorts, and we continue to keep delivering both offerings, but in a slightly more flexible way. So there are some hybrid cohorts still where there's spaces reserved for you for 4 of the 12 weeks of the full-time course. And then outside of that 4 weeks, you'll have around another 4 weeks of optional co-working from the office. So the only difference between those two kinds of on-site working is that 4 weeks of it is dedicated to your cohort only, and then 4 weeks is like a bookable space where you could co-work with members of other cohorts as well. So it's just a nice kind of chance to meet people in other cohorts that are maybe further along or earlier on in their makers experience as well. So yeah, if you choose a hybrid cohort, you can spend anything up to like 8 of the 12 weeks of the full-time course in the office. If you're in a fully remote cohort, you can still make use of those bookable spaces. So there's no reserved space for your cohort, but there's bookable spaces for certain weeks of the bootcamp as well. But if you have specific questions about the cohort dates that you're interested in, feel free to reach out to contact@makers.tech and we can confirm those dates for you if it's kind of playing into your decision.
Yeah, thank you, Owen. Just by the way, I've just popped into the chat the page about the finance, so you can go into that link and find more information about that. Do you offer apprenticeships all year long or until September/October? We offer them all year long. It's sort of a constant part of makers. You know, we're constantly having new hiring partners come and join the makers family. So it's, you know, and so a lot of them will come back and hire new apprentices each year, but it's not specific to any time of year, as far as I know. But if you would like any more information on that, please go into the contact@makers.tech, and I will I'll find that out for you. For the remote cohort, can you come into the office to get support from the teachers? Owen, I think it's for you.
Yeah, so for those fully remote cohorts, there's some opportunity to come work from the office, but because the space is reserved for devs in hybrid cohorts for certain weeks of their bootcamp experience, it will be per section. So of the 12 weeks of the full-time course, you can probably book a space in maybe 4 of those weeks, because 4 of those weeks will be for devs from any cohort to come along, co-work, hang out in the office, whatever it is. So not always, but sometimes.
Cool. There was a blog post about the application process that I'm just gonna pop in the chat as well. And this is a question for you actually, perfect timing. How is the day structured? Is it 9 to 5?
Roughly, so more like 9:30 to 5:30, 6-ish. It's full-time, like Monday to Friday. And then during the full-time course, you also have weekend challenges. This is more at your discretion of how many hours you put into it, but we do ask that you set time aside in each of your weekends to work on those. So yeah, it is like intensive for those 3 months. It's only the pre-course that's part-time. The full-time course is full-time.
Said said, excellent work by all the teams. It's great to see solutions for real world issues and some nice games as well. I wanted to ask the students what concepts they found easy to grasp and what were the most challenging and demanded more time.
Any devs still on the call like to chat about this?
Yeah, there's a couple. Sorry. Who said that?
Wait, so could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. So Said said, excellent work by all the teams. It's great to see solutions for real world issues and some nice games as well. I wanted to ask the students what concepts they found easy to grasp and what were the most challenging and demanded more of their time.
Most challenging was learning the new technology, React, because none of us had learnt that. Well, a few of us had, but we'd only briefly touched it. So yeah, that was quite a difficult challenge, and that took longer than anticipated to grasp. Things that were relatively easy. The teamwork was quite easy actually, because we'd had lots of practice for that beforehand and such, so that was quite nice to have already in place, those soft skills and such. I'll let someone else answer if anyone else is wanting to answer. That one.
Yeah, I don't mind answering some of that. So for me personally, I found most challenging is pair programming, like 4 hours a day, every single day. Like it does take a lot of energy. You just got to remember to plan in breaks and not sort of remember to take your own time out and not overdo it, because you don't want to burn yourself out.
Thank you. So, we've got a few more here. Said says, what other tools would you recommend to help aid the learning process? This could either be a student or Owen. Anyone go for it?
Take notes, and also we found that going back over, this was a constant in our peer groups, and that just going back over the materials when you feel you've got a spare moment and you've had just to help things sink in.
Also Google, literally, if you're unsure of something, Google it. That's going to be your go-to for the next 16 weeks.
I was going to say something similar about using YouTube. There's so many, especially things like React, there's so many tutorials that are broken down really clearly. And for me, I think it really helped me to take notes every week when we were pairing, so that like for the weekend challenge, then it's not so overwhelming. Like your notes are just there in your notebook, and it's easier to set up your project and keep going. And the other thing is using Code Academy. You don't need to stop using Code Academy, after the pre-course, like it's still there, it's still free. You can learn all the languages and markdown languages and everything using that. So it's really helpful.
Me personally, within the course, using the students from within my cohort was extremely helpful and beneficial, because you may not have the answer, but someone else within your team may. So the other students and the coaches were extremely helpful as well.
Yeah, it's good to have a little support network as well. And you guys all seem like you work very well together. Emily said, how many projects do students end up making by the end?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're thinking team projects, there are 3 main engineering projects that you take part in over the course of the 12-week full-time course. So these are the ones that really replicate the developer process of working in a team of like 4 to 6 developers. So they're often the ones of larger complexity, larger scope that devs have to work on collaboratively and work out how do we distribute the work between this many people, how do we make sure we're not overlapping with one another, how do you keep everyone like engaged, learning while building, and things like that. On an individual basis, like you could just do a lot of like small projects to practice certain objectives of the week. So we set the learning objectives for each week or every 2 weeks, depending on the unit of learning. And those are like the kind of high level goals to start moving towards, whether it's test-driven development, working with the web, like learning a new language through JavaScript, something like that. So you might do smaller projects with the pair or by yourself during those weeks as well. But yeah, 3 main big ones, I'd say.
Excellent. So brilliant, thank you so much. That's just finally, I'm not sure if you've addressed this, but are the lectures or workshops recorded so that we can revisit them? Owen, do you record the workshops?
We do record our workshops. I've been privy to forgetting sometimes, when I'm usually reminded in the nick of time. But yeah, we record our workshops, leave them in a folder in your channel so you can revisit them to check them out. Some sessions I, as a coach, personally don't record because sometimes it's maybe more of a space for like sharing or like just some vulnerability, and sometimes I feel like recording it can maybe take away a tiny part of that that energy, but the kinds of main things like, yeah, workshops, live coding sessions, stuff like that, we usually have recordings for them. And if we don't, we'll have other resources that we would use instead.
Thank you. I have just posted the blog post about the application motivation letter, by the way, and just let me know if anyone can't see it. I've changed my who can see it to everyone now, I think. Oh no, mine's just panelists. Sorry, I'll put it again. Oh, did you do it, Owen? Thank you. Cheers. So Jamie's asking, if you're on the apprenticeship scheme, do you do the same boot camp or is it tailored to your future employer? So what you'll do is with your apprenticeship, you'll do the boot camp as you know, as any other maker would normally do, and then you do it for 3 months, and then when you go to work for your employer, makers will still, correct me if I'm wrong, Owen, makers will still be able to train you in different technology. So if they want you to learn a different code, the makers will teach each apprentice that for the company if need be. Is that right, Owen? Normally what happens? Oh, Owen, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, my connection is a little bit sketchy at the moment, so I missed some of that. But yeah, the apprenticeship scheme is usually tailored to mix in the tech stack, depending on what it is, to the full-time course. But yeah, there's usually like maybe some Java, Python. We already do JavaScript. It can vary quite a bit within the apprenticeship bootcamp as well. So it's a tailored experience, but the kind of same core topics as Academy.
Oh, thank you. Emily is asking, is the application for the apprenticeship any different from the normal application? Is the first step doing the application, having the telephone chat to discuss options? Yes, so you can do it, and you can do this in a couple of ways. One way you could do it is just applying to makers and speaking to core sales. And if you're interested in doing an apprenticeship, they'll place you in the apprenticeship pool. So then you'll be contacted to do an apprenticeship when it comes up, if it's suited to you. And then the other route you could do is genuinely just apply for externally. So we have sort of two sort of groups that we have. So we have people who just apply through our the page that we put out on our social media and on different platforms. So yeah, I think what you're probably better doing though is going into the pool if you're really eager to do one soon, because you will get priority. They will let you know if there's an apprenticeship available, and as opposed to just sort of waiting around for it to be posted somewhere for you to see it. So yeah, I would say definitely go ahead with applying on our site, and I'm pretty sure we have 2 different applications for that. I think it is 2 different applications on our site for the apprenticeship and the academy. Okay, Said says, after completing the boot camp, if interested, can students join Makers Apprenticeship? Yes, they can. As far as I know, that's absolutely fine. At this moment, I don't know exactly like the transitional period, how that would go, but it's absolutely, that's a yes, you can definitely go into apprenticeship. But if you want to know more, just remember to email at contact@makers.tech, and we'll give you all the information on that. Okay, just a couple of minutes. Oh, Emily's asking, how quick is the apprenticeship turnaround? If you had a long notice period, could you be in the pool? Yes. So for example, the apprenticeship that's going to be going up this weekend, the deadline is for the 9th of June, and it doesn't start till July. So sorry for all the apprenticeship questions. I hadn't thought. All right, no problem, Emily. That's fine. the turnaround, it's really, I mean, some apprenticeships, I put out ones a few weeks ago and the deadline was like literally a few days after, and the starting period was like a month after. So it's really varied, but the one I'm putting up this weekend, that one is for a really great company, and their period is quite long. So July is the starting date for them. And yeah, so it varies every time. Okay. Just wait a couple of minutes just to see if any other questions come through. It's good to take advantage of this, everyone, of these questions. So anything you want to ask at all, just go for it. There's no silly questions. Hey, I think everyone's off to celebrate Easter. Cool. Well, if there's no more questions, thanks everyone for joining on this call. And one more. Do you have any examples of companies that bootcamp graduates get jobs with? So off the top of my head, I don't specifically, I can give examples of companies that we do apprenticeships with, but one specifically that did the bootcamp, just the Makers Academy, and then went on to do an apprenticeship. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting confused now. I'm thinking too much about the apprenticeships. Sorry, the companies that graduates get jobs with. Yeah, so we have we have companies like Monzo, Capgemini, Deloitte is a big hirer of ours. We have lots listed on our site. We have let me see, actually, I'll see if I can get a big list because I can't think of the top of my head. Owen, feel free to tap in.
Honestly, there's too many that I could keep tabs on. There's probably some kind of a list on our website. But I mean, we have like companies that we partner with through our partnerships team that are like some of the ones that Nikki mentioned, but then also like lots of companies outside of that hire from makers as well. So I'd say probably run with the website.
Yeah, I just saw like a wee list there. We have like British Gas, Trainline, Pantry Power is a big one. Flutter. Yeah, there's like so many. So yeah, definitely go on our website and check it out. There's so many opportunities that makers give you, and I'll stress the importance of why makers is different than other boot camps is because we don't just train you and let you fly off. You know, we make sure we make a big point of really investing in our makers and making sure that they are getting jobs, they are getting the help with their applications, and they are getting the chance to speak to these companies. And that's a really big part of the makers appeal, I think. So yeah, I definitely take that into consideration. Thanks very much for your question. Cool. Do you know the average starting salaries for these jobs? So Emily, the normal starting salary is we normally like to say is 32k, but honestly it varies. I know it's like probably sick of me saying it varies, but when I see people getting jobs when they've graduated, there's some that are a lot higher than that. You know, some people have I'm crazy starting salaries. I think I saw something, it was a couple of weeks ago, someone was on 70k. But then, you know, it's like the average we can give, I think our most average is 32 to 35. That's probably what you're looking for in London. That's probably London-based salary. Cool.
Okay, looks like
Is
might
that
be the
done?
end.
Okay.
Amazing.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Yeah, it's been great, and definitely get in touch with us, whether that's via Contact Makers or on our social channels. If you have any more questions, I'll be more than happy to help.
Thanks a million. Thanks, Nikki, and enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good Easter, everyone.